Perfect. Alrighty. Well, I first and foremost want to thank everyone who is able to join this call. I appreciate you guys coming to our yearly general body meeting. Just to introduce myself, my name is Mark McFarland. I am the president of the Science Policy Network Detroit this year. Excited to get to meet you all and see you all, as this is kind of our first official event. First of many, though, that will be coming. Um, so yeah. Um, just for anyone that is new, I want to maybe highlight our overall group mission. So the Science Policy Network Detroit, or SciPol Detroit, aims to advocate for science and evidence-based policies, promote science communication, advocacy, and career development opportunities, encourage community efficacy, and bridge the gap between scientists, lawmakers, and the lay public. And basically, what this presentation overall is going to look like is showing how we've been able to do that in the past, um, and how we will continue to do that, but also maybe detail some of our goals for this year and maybe how you guys as members can get involved and help us facilitate of our overall mission. So we have a large e-board this year. Some of us who are in this call and some of us who are not being able to make it. We have 13 people total on our board. So we got a lot of people to try to encourage us to and get us to achieving our mission. However, um, getting achieving our mission is not possible without our general members in too. So we always like to hear from you and hear your perspective. And from there, that's how we achieve our goals. Um, so I want to kind of outline science policy and its importance. So science policy guides how scientific research funding is funded, regulated, and used to solve real world problems. It helps connect scientific discoveries to government actions and public benefits while supporting innovation and education. Science policy allows um, policymakers to make evidence-based decisions, which leads to more effective policies. And it guides researchers. It guides research funding that can address important societal needs like public health, environmental protections, and advancements in technology. And so something that I really like to emphasize within the realm of this organization is that members are from all different specialties, all different areas within not even just science, but just interests in their backgrounds. And so when I look at, the demographics of even our board, I'm in public health. That is my main area of focus. But like Clara, who is also on this call, she is a neuroscientist. This group was founded by neuroscientists. Um, we have Emma and Mohammed, who are in, biological sciences. Nadia, who's in engineering. We truly have such a broad range of disciplines, and what we aim to do is, we might all be studying different things and stuff like that, but we all have a linking interest of wanting to advance science policy. Um, and so that's really what we aim to get at with this organization is you don't need to be an expert in, environmental science in order to advocate for environmental health protections and things like that. Organizational limitations, I want to kind of maybe boil these down all into one point in which we are a nonpartisan organization. And so what that means is we aim to lend ourselves as resources to any, political figure, policymaker, organization that wants to, improve science and advocate for science policy and who has an interest in hearing what we have to say. And so, in some of our bigger events, when we go to Washington, D.C. or Lansing, we always end our meetings with being like, hey, if you guys ever want a scientist, researcher point of view on a policy that you guys are making, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And we extend that offer to everyone. We really think it's beneficial to advocate towards effective policies no matter who makes the policy. And so, yeah, I just really wanted to hone in on that issue, that we truly think long term and sustainability wise, it works out best when we can advocate and promote science-based policies to wide ranges of audiences, regardless of political party, education level, regardless of whatever, that is our goal. And so I want to highlight some of our overall achievements from the past year, but then I'll get into maybe some of the more specific events, especially for people who are prospective joiners of SciPol would want to hear. And so we have continued our annual advocacy visits to Capitol Hill and Lansing, which we will touch more on in this presentation. Capitol Hill, I think this was our fourth, maybe fifth one that we've done in Lansing. I think second or third one that we have done. And so basically how these events go about, um, we get a group of us together and we, train and practice having meetings. And again, I will talk more about that in a second. We've established new partnerships with Karmanos Cancer Institute, the Michigan Science Center, and Kelly Cawthorn. These are now partners of ours of sorts where when we want to do some of our events, we might lean on them, ask them for their advice. They may help contribute to the event, or just, Kelly Cawthorn is associated with the university. Um, and so, yeah, that is exciting that we've been able to establish those connections over the past year. Um, for our Washington, D.C. trip, we nearly raised $4,000 in donations last year to help make sure that we were able to fund people to go on this advocacy day so that there was as little as out-of-pocket costs as possible. Um, and then expanded Scientology Trades membership across different groups to broaden our reach and capacity. And of course, we're always still aiming to achieve that, but in the past year, we have made great strides in that realm. So the first major event that I want to talk about this past year was our Lansing advocacy trip. Lansing, the capital of Michigan. We had a one-day trip in there to March where we met with around 18 different lawmakers by splitting up into five different groups. So we kind of divided and or three different groups. We divided and conquered, um, where we discussed five different bills. And so um, we supported four bills. So there was a maternal health omnibus, which was like a maternal health bill package. There was a health data utility bill, a prescription drug affordability package of bills, and then promoting African American education in schools bill. And then there was a bill that we did our first ever opposition to a bill in our Lansing trip where there was a transgender youth exclusion in sports bill that we opposed in our meetings. And so this is a day-long event where we get there quite early in the morning. We're there until like 4 p.m. and we have a lot of different meetings in the meantime. We usually go for lunch, or we usually have lunch. The Michigan Health and Hospital Association has been so generous in housing us the past couple years. That's like our meeting spot. And then we like go to different meetings. Usually, this past year, Kelly Cawthorn was able to give us kind of guides to make sure that we got to our meetings on time. Before this meeting even takes place, we hold training sessions with the people who had indicated that they are coming on this trip so that they can learn how to craft talking points, how to speak on certain issues, and that kind of stuff. And so uh, I just want to reiterate for maybe the prospective people that these might seem kind of scary having meetings with lawmakers and things like that. However, we train and guide you throughout the process to make it as not as nerve-wracking as possible, even though I've been on quite a few of these, I still get nervous, so it's okay. But I just want to emphasize that point of there's a lot of training that happens before we even go on these advocacy trips to make sure that you feel comfortable and things like that. And so moving on into our Capitol Hill. Advocacy Day. Now, this is like the Lansing Day times two. So we actually go to Washington, D.C. This is a 2-day event, and where this past year we met with both senators from the state of Michigan, along with 13 of the representatives from the state of Michigan, and we all advocated about the importance of scientific funding. Now, this advocacy day was a bit different for us. Typically, for our advocacy days, we come with bills prepared of like, this bill is something that we support as a group. But because of the political timing of which we were going to Washington, D.C., it made more sense because it was during that time of appropriations and like the budget. It made more sense for us to really advocate on behalf of researchers in the importance of scientific funding. And so we all took about different approaches to communicate this. So, from my perspective, I talked about being on an NIH-funded clinical trial and how important that was to my health. We have members talking about what that means for their training as a PhD student. We had members talk about their experience as an international student, talking about what that means for them. And that's one of the really important things that we try to strive for in advocacy is to make sure that you touch on your personal stories. I feel like it's a common misconception that when you're doing these kind of presentations, when you're trying to convey an argument, that you need to leave your personal stories out of it. But in this, it's really your time to shine and talk about your experiences. Um, Sometimes on our Washington, D.C. trips, we get to go into some of the galleries and watch the Senate or the House of Representatives. It just all kind of depends. Um, Both Lansing and DC are kind of, we have a schedule, but with the ever-changing nature of politics and things like that, things change a lot. And so, sometimes things we get to do years prior, we don't get to do, but these advocacy days are always very impactful and very um leave me feeling very inspired and accomplished. And so these will be continuing this year. So if you're interested in these, we hope to always get new people and train new people on this as well. So moving on to events maybe outside of our advocacy of sorts. Our science fair with the twist is an event that we've done for the past 3 years. We're in the initial stages of planning our fourth year. And what this event is basically we invite students from Detroit public high schools. Um, this past year we invited two classes. In past years we've invited one. And we invite them to judge the kind of research that happens at Wayne State. So we get Wayne State researchers to come present posters and things like that, more interactive experiences. However, they have to make sure that the what they are conveying is digestible for an audience that, might not be super in the know about whatever it is that they're talking about. So, we have people from oncology come and talk about their research. So they got to make sure that they make it digestible to an audience that might not be familiar with the topics. And as they're doing that, they have like a QR code on their phone that they fill out a survey. And by the end, we find what groups, are the winners. But it really is a win-win. It has a bi-directional effect, I like to say, of, researchers are able to practice their science communication skills to audiences that might not be super in the know about what is happening, or like not what is happening, but what their topic is. There's plenty of topics that you might have a lot of personal knowledge on that like other people might not. And so, that makes it it can make it kind of challenging. But also, the Detroit Public High School students get to learn what research in life is like at Wayne State University. And that's also very important. We usually get undergrads to come in and talk during lunch, kind of go around to the table so that, the students can ask the undergrad questions. We usually get speakers to come. So, in some of these pictures, like there's me and Emma talking. Lori Pyle, who is the assistant dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, if I'm not mistaken. She came and gave a talk. The dean of the graduate school has given a talk at a couple of our science fairs. Here's last year's winners, It's a fun event. It's 1 day long. So if you are in a research lab or anything similar, or you get involved in a research lab, please be on the lookout for when we're calling for researchers, because every year we're trying to make it bigger and better. And this year is not the exception. And so a community event that we always strive to do, or not always strive to do, but that we've participated in, is Wayne State's annual Brain Day. Um, this is an event that's hosted at the Michigan Science Center that is largely neuroscience focused. However, we come in, do our more policy, try to find ways to engage maybe even young kids in understanding policy and things like that. And so, and also maybe engaging in some conversations with the adults. They usually come, their kids come with their parents or their guardians of some sort. And, we kind of talk to them while, other people talk to the kids, and just so that, they know what our organization is about and what we aim to do as a group. The Michigan Science Center, has been, and we will be doing this event again this year. Yeah. So our overall goals for the year, when I came into my position, I was like, I have some goals that I want to do for SciPol this year, and these were among the three that I kind of hypothesized. I want to grow our network, so expanding our membership to increasing engagement with undergraduate students is something very important to me. Um, I was an undergrad when I joined this organization. And, I'm going to be so frank, before I joined, I thought policy was boring and I really didn't like it. And so, but through joining this organization, I have found real appreciation and real interest in the realm of policy. And so that is something I'm always aiming to disseminate. Um, Also, strengthen our recruitment efforts for law students pre-law. Um, we're an organization that is more science focused. However, like I feel like in our um, law school, we've been a little underperforming in those kind of members. And so I always want to make sure that we're including all members of Wayne State to make sure that like everyone's voices is being heard appropriately and equitably. I want to strengthen our local collaboration efforts, so plan more events in collaboration with Wayne State um, and local Detroit organizations and Metro Detroit community groups. And also going to meetings within district offices. So obviously we do our advocacy days um, in Lansing and DC, but policymakers have offices, in their communities and things like that. And so finding and creating ways to maybe plan for us to go so that, those who maybe aren't able to come to Lansing or Washington, D.C., they still can participate in advocacy. And that kind of really leads into my final and I think the most important goal of mine this year and of the group this year, is to promote advocacy accessibility. And so what that means is finding ways to promote advocacy outside of our advocacy days. Because as great as those are, those take a lot of time and a lot of planning. And there are ways to advocate without going to DC and Lansing and things like that. And so that kind of leads into one effort is a letter writing campaign that we are doing a collaborative event with Green Warriors. This will be on December 4th in the Biological Sciences building or virtually. So it will be a hybrid event where we will teach how to conduct a letter writing campaign or how to write letters to your lawmakers and to different audiences. And so we will give like a smaller presentation at the beginning of like what is a letter writing campaign, how to find your representatives, how to find your audience, and provide maybe some templates and some guidelines of what to include. And then at the second half, we are going to basically kind of just facilitate writing. We're going to save time so that you can write with having resources available. And from there, you can ask us questions and then we can send them off and, make it so that, advocacy isn't just something that you need to do in person. You can do it in the form of writing, you can do it in the form of virtual meetings, and all that other kind of great ways to do some advocacy through phone calls, through phone banking efforts, but this is another way. This is our first ever letter writing campaign that we've ever done, and I'm very excited to do it collaboratively with another student org on Wayne State's campus. Um, we're going to come with an issue to write about, so research funding, climate change, health equity, and then we're going to figure out how to communicate that effectively through writing to lawmakers and if and even like Wayne State admin. If there's an on-campus problem that we are like, yeah, this is not great, figuring out how to write that appropriately based on your audience is going to be very important and is the purpose of this event. So I'm very excited for that. Mark your calendars if you can make it. I would love for people to come in person. If you can make it virtually, that's great too. No worries. And yeah. So when we were making this presentation, this was one thing that one of our faculty advisors mentioned. There's a website called, it's called 5Call. And basically what that means is you can pick an issue. So if you go onto the website, you know, you can pick an issue and then put in, like, find what your issue is. And then it gives you almost a script to send to your lawmakers about the issue, if you need some help with that. Um, and so it also will help you give you contact information, and it also tracks issues as well. So if you scan that QR code, it'll take you to a website called fivecalls.org. You can set your location based on where you live, or if you're at Wayne State but your legal residence is somewhere else, you can set that as well. Um, and click on it. So let's say it's extend the Affordable Care Act premium tax credits. You know, it gives you their phone numbers. So here's the phone numbers of Sheree Tanadar, Gary Peters, and Alyssa Slotkins. And it also gives you a script of what to say to them. Um, and so that is another form of advocacy that you can do in all of 5 minutes, something like that. To show up for policies that you support. Um, so that is a very cool website, but also you can apply, if you see an issue that's important to you that maybe it's not on that website, again, adapt the script, something like that. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna keep this on. Are we good to move? I can also put the link in the chat in a second when this is more over. Um, and also, we want to hear from you guys. So, like I said, I want to help, and we as an organization want to help facilitate your policy goals and your policy initiatives. And so, if you have any ideas for an event or something to advocate upon or an issue that you want to bring up or anything, there is a Google form that you can fill out, um, that you can leave that information in. It asks for your name if it's an event and you want to help play a role in creating the event. You don't have to leave your name, but we would love to work with you. And so yeah, this I can also put this in the chat before the meeting is over. Um, and this will be a running Google survey, so always feel free to I'm the kind of person when I'm cooking dinner, I think of an idea. And so then that's when I would probably throw mine in there. So please feel free to do that, or reach out. So yeah. Here are some of the organizations that we have, maybe we've received from some funding in the past from. So Union of Concerned Scientists is a great organization that we have received some grant funding from in the past, and we just kind of follow. Research America has provided us with some grant funding, and they always are trying to understand, or they always are a good tool I should have mentioned earlier, but the National Science Policy Network is our umbrella kind of branch. So that is the national branch, and we're a chapter of the National Science Policy Network. And of course, different colleges at Wayne State. So Wayne State College of Liberal Arts, Wayne State School of Medicine, and this is not a comprehensive list by any means. Carmanos Cancer Institute was so gracious in providing us some funding last year for our Science Fair with a Twist and things like that. And so, next, here's our social media. If you do not follow us on Instagram, SciPol Detroit. There is some YouTube videos from our past videos of different events and stuff we have done. Not too much on the YouTube, but our Instagram is our main kind of like thing. I think this year we're also going to start out maybe like a LinkedIn group so that you can join on LinkedIn and kind of stay with some members as they continue on into their professional careers as well. Okay, so that's my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing. Are there any questions from anyone that they would like to ask? Oh, thank you, Clara, for including those links into the chat. Um, yes. Any questions? Totally okay. If you don't have any questions right now, I'm going to put our organization email in the chat. Um, Feel free if, like I said, I'm the kind of person when I'm cooking dinner, I think of a question. And so feel free to email us. I'm pretty attentive to that email. And so I can get back to you and things like that. And then let's see. Um, if you would like, let's see. Um, if you are interested in becoming a member, um, here is our link tree. And the top link, the top two links are going to be very important if you have not done so already. So the top link is to sign up for our newsletter. Our newsletter comes out periodically where we will be detailing events that you can participate in and whatnot. And then becoming a member, you can fill out this form. It'll just ask for your name and things like that. Some of the perks and whatnot. And yeah, and you would be officially a member on our record so that you could participate in the advocacy days and a lot of the different events. Perfect. I'm also going to stop sharing now or stop recording.